Good morning. Can I have your attention, please? May I have your attention? As I'm looking at the crowd, I see a lot of new faces, a lot of guests. So I'm going to start off by asking those of you who are veteran Rotarians to be patient with me as I kind of introduce our guests to some of the traditions. And one of the traditions of Rotary is that we begin our meeting and close our meeting by ringing the Rotary bell. So in future meetings, when you show up, that's the second thing that's on my list. The second thing that's on my list is before I ring the bell, turn off your cell phones.
I like the new bell.
That's not the bell I was talking about. The timing was perfect. So we'll open the meeting. And I want to welcome you, remind you to silence your cell phones. And we have a really, really busy meeting today. And so I'm going to ask you all to stand with me while we have a pledge, while we have a prayer, and then the pledge, and then the four-way test. So to do the prayer today, I'm going to ask the CEO of USI Federal Credit Union, Tom Butler, to do the prayer. Tom. Head cook and bottle washer.
Please bow your head. Prayer is today a powerful force in our nation, as it has ever been. We as a nation should never forget this source of strength. And while recognizing the freedom to choose a godly path is the essence of liberty, as a nation, we cannot but hope that more of our citizens would, through prayer, come into a closer relationship with their Maker. I ask all who believe to join with me in giving thanks for the blessings and forgiveness His presence gives us. Let us, as Rotarians and Americans, join together today, fully aware of the trials that lie ahead and the need, yes, the necessity, for divine guidance. With faith in and liberty, which is our heritage, we as a free nation will surely survive and prosper. Thus, in one accord, we join in Rotary Fellowship and ask God's help to strengthen our commitment to service above self. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Tom. Thanks very much. And now I'd like to ask Erica Pertiera of Pertiera & Company. It's a fundraising organization to lead us in the pledge.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Erica. I don't know how I became so fortunate up here to be so close to such lovely women, but we have a second very lovely lady coming up here. Sarah Hampton Canvas is going to lead us in our four-way test, and she's moving back from New Orleans, I think back to Houston. This is a good thing. We get Bryce in the package, which is okay. We get Sarah back. Sarah Hampton back.
Thank you, Larry. All right, the four-way test is a nonpartisan and non-sectarian ethical guide for Rotarians to use for their personal and professional relationships. The test has been translated into more than 100 languages, and it is our Rotary tradition to recite at club meetings. Of the things we think, say, and do, number one, is it true? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, will it build better friendships? Number four, will it be beneficial to all concerned? And for the Downtown Rotary Club of Houston, number five, is it fun? Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, I think you can be seated. We're going to have play a patriotic song. I remember probably 2004, 3, somewhere in that range. Lee Greenwood was one of the last, if not the last, singers to sing in all 20 rodeo shows, singing the Star Spangled Banner and singing the song that we're going to play now. You have let's go with that. So always a moving song for me. Texans had deep voices like that. That was good. Another Rotary tradition, the Rotary started off as a business club. And so a bunch of businessmen up near Chicago got together and began to meet so that they could exchange ideas and exchange cards. Back then there were cards, today they're on your phone, but and actually do business together. So as part of that Rotary tradition, when we welcome guests, we ask them to stand and introduce themselves and tell us what company they work for, what their position is. So we're going to do that now. Our Billy Bray, who has just started an outsourced risk, which is a new property casualty firm. Billy is our acting sergeant of arms today, and he will walk around. If you are a guest, non-Rotarian, we're going to do the Rotarian second, but if you are a guest, a non-Rotarian guest, please stand up so that we can allow you to introduce yourself. So please stand, and Billy will come around. When you've introduced yourself, you may sit down, but until you've done that, please remain standing so Billy can find you. Yes?
I'm so glad to be here. My name is Carolyn Gazalski, and I'm an executive recruiter, and I am up for hire right now, so.
Thank you, Carolyn.
Hello, my name is Jane Shulman. I'm Mr. Rick. I'm an executive assistant looking for a job.
Perfect. Thank you, Jane.
am Julie Shiflett. I'm the Chief Administrative Officer for a credit union service organization called CU Rebel.
Perfect. Thank you, Julie.
Hi, I'm Randy Stein with Advantage BMW Clear Lake, Mini of Clear Lake, guest of Brenda Kamick. Thanks for the invite.
He's a guest of almost half the people here, I think. So. Tim mentioned him, so he's a popular guy. Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is Miguel Hernandez. I'm with Angle & Vokers, Houston. I am the marketing and advertising coordinator. Thank you for having me.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for being here.
How you doing? My name is Alex Marichal. I'm with Beautiful Anti-Aging Studio Clinic. I'm a guest at Angle & Vokers with Brooks Powell.
Perfect. Thank you, sir.
Howdy, my name is Amber Paulus. I'm a student at Texas A&M, and I'm also a member of Turning Point USA, and I'm also engaged to Brenda Cassell.
All right.
Thank you. Howdy, my name is Brenda Cassell. I'm a senior political science major at Texas A&M University. I'm a cadet. I'm also a senior campus coordinator at Turning Point USA.
Good old A&M. Thank you, too. Glad you met there. Good for you.
Community leader Tex Christopher and business owner. Glad to be here with you guys today.
Hey, Tex. Good to see you, man.
Good morning. Thanks for inviting me, Billy. My name is Kelly Hawkins. I am the CEO of KRJ Management.
Good morning. I'm a fellow Rotarian. I'm Kim Mathis. I work for HCA Houston Healthcare and Community Engagement. And guest of Debbie's. Happy to be here.
Thank you very much.
I'm Dorothy Lee Levinson, back from Los Angeles, and I'm a community, active in very community charities.
Thank you, Dorothy. Welcome home.
My name is Rich Montes. I'm a paramedic with Second Street TMS. I'm a guest of Jake Opry.
Perfect. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Lori Cobb. I am a branch manager for private lending, and I am a guest of Tim and welcome.
Great. Thank you.
My name is Jake Opry. I'm the COO for Associated Credit Union of Texas down in League City, and I am the guest of Tim Stroud and Mr. Bob Gephardt.
Perfect. Thank you guys for being here. Bob's over there.
I am Tony Boyd. This is my lovely wife Gail. We're the guests of Larry today. I'm the Houston executive for AECOM, a global provider of planning, design, and construction services.
Great. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Tony.
Good morning. I'm Tyler Smith, the guest of Larry. I am a drilling team lead for Shell Oil.
I've known that kid all my life, all his life rather. So that's my son, and beside him is my daughter-in-law, and beside her is my bride. So, and lest you think they're here to watch me, that's got nothing to do with it. Let me just tell you, our guest speaker brother, if I wasn't up here, they'd still be here for the guest speaker for sure. So, do we have, yes, one, okay, I'm sorry.
Little me. Am I right here? Good morning, I'm Nicole Goulet. I'm business development at Fidelity National Title, and I am a guest of Lori Ford.
Perfect, Laura.
Hi everyone, I'm Rhonda Cote. You'll hear my little Canadian accent. I'm actually from Canada, but I'm almost a citizen here, so I'm so excited. I will be able to vote in the next election, so I'm pretty confident about that. I'm with Remax Fund Properties in Sugar Land, Texas.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome for sure. Do we have any visiting Rotarians here today that we haven't introduced yet? If you're a visiting Rotarian, stand up and Billy will get the mic to you.
Thank you. I'm Kevin Reynolds, head wrangler of the Reynolds Realty Group, and I was invited by the finest title company in Houston, Texas, Fidelity, and Lori Ford.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Maggie Peterson. I'm a member of the Houston Veterans Rotary Group, and I am the founder and executive director of Camp Shield, a nonprofit organization that serves female veterans.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you for your service.
I'm Tim Stroud, former combat medic in the United States Army and president of the Houston Veterans Rotary Club, and also run the service dog program for Easter Seals of Greater Houston.
Perfect. Thank you, Tim.
Hi, I'm Cindy Heiser, and I am from the Woodlands Rotary Club, and we had a
Hey y'all, I'm Craig Heiser, her son. I am a recent graduate of Southwestern University in Georgetown, Texas, and I work for Goosehead Insurance as an account executive.
Bob Gephardt, past district governor, 2013-2014. I'm a member of the Pasadena Club, co-founder of the Rotary Club of Greater Houston Veterans and advisor for that club. And this year I'm serving as the District International Service Chair, and I'm also a Military Veteran Peer Network facilitator and work at the Veterans Treatment Corps.
Yeah, we used to be the newest club, and we've been displaced as the newest. We're the old guys now because Bob has been so active with Tim developing a Veterans and, lest it be confused, Veterans and Patriots Club. So they're not geographically known as the Veterans and Patriots, so we're thrilled to have you all here. Thank you. And past governor?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Nick Giannoni, past district governor 15-16 from the Lake Jackson Club, and I just showed up because I love this club.
Thank you so much. We appreciate that. We love you too. That's great.
My name is Denton Florian. I'm the executive producer of the documentary film on Sam Houston that was on PBS. I'm here on behalf of the Woodlands Rotary Club and Spirit of Texas Bank.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that. The Spirit of Texas Bank customers. So there you go. Okay, anyone else? Did we miss anybody? Okay, so part of how Rotary got started was business to business. And then that whole group recognized that there was an immense amount of power that could do good in the community out there. And that became the service above self motto that is the Rotary's motto. And we as a club have over 18 committees. And of those 18 committees, 12 of those committees are outreach committees to the community. You probably received, or you will receive, a letter from me. First of all, let me apologize for the small font. I got it, looked at it, and went, this letter's for younger people than I had to get out them, but it's the way it is. Unfortunately, we're trying to save money by getting it all down to 2 or 3 pages. So, but that letter will highlight for you some of the committees and the activities that we have available. So, and it also suggests that you contact one of our committee chairs, or that you take your phone and take a picture, and I can never remember, it's not a URL, what's this?
QR code.
QR code. Take a picture of this QR. You don't have to take a picture. Just hover your phone over it. It'll open up a spot for you to click on. It'll take you right to a website. You can fill out a survey. 2 questions. 1, which of the following committees do you want to serve on? 2, which of the following committees do you want to support financially? Very simple, easy questions. Our committee chairman will follow up with you from there. So please take a few moments and read that over. I do want to thank our committee chair people. So if you're a committee chairperson, would you stand up, and Billy's going to come around again and just hand the microphone off to you to tell them your name and what committee you chair. Brandon, you want to kick us off?
Sure, why not? I'm Brandon Kamak. I'm the president-elect here, and I'm also the chair of the Prison Entrepreneurship Program.
It's a phenomenal program to reduce recidivism. Did I say that right? I think I did. Recidivism, and they've had dramatic impact, 20, 30, 40% reduction in recidivism. It's a great program. It's on hold now because of COVID, but it'll be active soon. Jay?
Yes, I'm Jay Como. I'm the chairman of the Veterans Committee for this club.
Very active committee. November 5th, it's November 5th is our Veterans Committee meeting, so, or Veterans meeting rather, so you want to mark that on your calendar. Lori?
Hi, I'm Lori Ford, and I am the new chair of the Barbara Bush Literacy Foundation.
Excellent, excellent. And that program is available to anyone in the club, or if you have, like my spouse Marcia, if you have kids, they can all participate in it. So get in touch with Lori. That's a great program that Barbara Bush actually started. Go ahead, Cheryl.
I'm Cheryl Sagner. I'm chairman of Salvation Army St. Nicholas Committee. I'll be calling you in September to volunteer to ring bells.
Perfect. Thank you, Cheryl. We appreciate that.
And hello, everyone. I'm Billy Ray.
chairman of the membership. Did I just get you off there? Yeah, we do. Chairman of the membership committee, and we're glad to have all of you guys here. And if you know folks that you've been wanting to bring to our club to visit, please check our calendar and bring them with, and we'll try to find a spot to fill them in. Tom, I'm going to come for you. I'm going to go right here back to Lorraine.
Yeah.
Hey everybody, I'm Lorraine Westerfield. I'm the director of the USO for the Houston area. I am also on the Veterans Committee, so please get involved there. I am the chairwoman of the Welcome and Administration Committee. So if you like being able to check in, or you would like to check in quicker, it would be wonderful if you would volunteer with our committee. We would love to have you. Great team here, but we could always use more. Thanks.
Absolutely. Y'all do a great job, and it's crazy at that door. Everybody's coming in, they want to talk, and they somehow keep everything calm and get everybody registered. So they really deserve a round of applause before we talk to them. Before we let talk. Well done.
My name is Tom Butler, and I'm chair of the St. Nicholas Committee. We gather presents for children. We host the Christmas party here. We do play. What did we do last year? We went to see Elf, the musical, and we just try to have as much fun as we can around the holidays.
So the difference is Cheryl is the work committee, Tom is the fun part of St. Nick. So just, they kind of co-chair that. And I co-chair one committee with Bill Drennan. I don't see Bill here. And that's the free enterprise camp where we help high school kids, we promote and actually reward high school kids for entrepreneurship. So that's all written up and covered. There are other committees, so please take a few minutes to look at that. Okay, let me get caught up. I also want to highlight for you on your table, there is a card, and that card allows you to make donations or check the box. So you have a lot of ways that you can help support us, and if you want to make a donation to any of our committees, you can do that right there. And I want to thank those of you who paid your dues, and those of you who will pay your dues, and those of you who will join our club and pay your dues, because all of these committees are made possible by those dues payments. So thank you all very much for that. Also at the international level, the Rotary has been very, very busy, and I want to show a quick video. Arturo, are you ready with the video on the Rotary 6 areas? We ready to go? Please show that. They've done some amazing things internationally. And now I'm going to do something for Rick Slaymaker that he never did for me during his term as our charter president. I'm going to ask him to come forward with 1 or 2 extra minutes in his part of the agenda. He always gives me 30 seconds and tells me to keep it short. So, Rick, it's all yours. Come on up and say thank you to some people.
It's my honor today because of COVID-19, not because of COVID, but it's my honor, to recognize some of the members that because of COVID weren't able to be here in past meetings to be recognized. And the first member of our last term, I want to invite up Jeff. Come on up here, my friend. Jeff Applegate is a new member to this club, a former member of the Rotary Club of Houston when I was sponsoring there, and I brought Jeff in. He is an amazing guy, and he's going to receive one of the most important awards that we can get at Rotary. Just one moment. It is my honor today to present Jeff Tenney Applegate, a Paul Harris Fellow, in appreciation of tangible and significant assistance given to further a better understanding and friendly relations among peoples of the world. Your award today, Paul Harris Fellow. Congratulations, my friend. He didn't want to say anything, that's the truth. Paul Harris, unlike his brother up here. So I've got a few more words. This next award is to one of our super volunteers, Fred Barton. Fred, come on up here, my friend. Yellow. Fred is a monthly occurrence. Every month, he's over here at the door with his wife, Jan. Jan's a retired nurse and taking care of the grandkids, so Fred's here. So Fred, I want to give you what's so deserved by you, and I have one for Jan when she comes back. But this is the presidential recognition. You can tell we rehearsed this. In recognition of outstanding dedication service from the Downtown Rotary Club of Houston, June 30, 2020, Fred A. Barton. Fred, congratulations. Tom Butler's already on the podium here. I'm sure he didn't know we were going to do this, but Tom's a triple threat club. He's a board member. We're recognized, our treasurer. And I want to recognize you, Tom. Come on up.
I knew there was a reason I was allowed up here at the front row.
Yes.
They don't let me.
With the heavy emphasis on allowed. That's it. Tom, this is for being a past treasurer to the board of directors in recognition of outstanding service and dedication to the Downtown Rotary Club of Houston. And one more. The Tom Butler, the chairman of the St. Nicholas Committee, chairman 2019-2020, hereby recognize his service to the Downtown Rotary Club of Houston, the Salvation Army, and all the kids and the community that go with that, serving mankind. God bless you, brother.
Well, we're waiting for our guest speaker to arrive, and I want to introduce the person who will be introducing our guest speaker. Our chair of the day is a charter member of our organization and is the founder and CEO, chairman rather, of Accordion Group, which provides worldwide companies with workout, restructuring, reorganizations, etc. He's an icon in this community. I give you Fred Zeidman.
Dan, you're not going to make your next eulogy either, so come on. This will be the longest introduction. We'll shorten it a little bit now that Dan's here. Originally from Houston area, Dan Crenshaw is a proud sixth-generation Texan. From an early age, he knew he wanted to serve his country with the most elite fighting force in history, the U.S. Navy SEALs. Dan graduated from Tufts University in 2006, where he earned his Naval Officer Commission through Navy ROTC. Following graduation, he immediately reported to SEAL training in Coronado, where he met his future wife, Tara. And by the way, we all say we married up. Did Dan ever marry up? So she's not even with you, so that she doesn't show you up today, right, Dan? But anyway, after graduating SEAL training, Dan deployed to Fallujah, Iraq to join SEAL Team 3, his first of 5 deployments overseas. On his third deployment in 2012, his life changed forever. After 6 months of combat operations, he was hit by an IED blast during a mission in Afghanistan. He was evacuated and his right eye had been destroyed in the blast and his left eye was badly damaged. Dan was completely blind and the doctors did not believe he would ever see again. Tara stood by him every day and night, keeping faith and praying that he would see again. Dan eventually regained sight in his left eye, a miracle according to the head surgeon. Dan refused to quit and went on to deploy twice more, first back to the Middle East and then to South Korea in 2016. He retired in 2016 as a lieutenant commander after serving 10 years in the SEAL team. He left service with 2 Bronze Stars, one with Valor, the Purple Heart, and the Navy Commendation Medal of Honor, among others. Soon after, Dan completed his Master's in Public Administration at the Harvard Kennedy School of Government. He then returned to Houston, where he saw firsthand the unthinkable hurricane losses that Texas had suffered. But he also saw Texan grit and resilience. This inspired him to do more for his community. Dan and Tara decided the best way to serve the people of Texas would be an elected office. In November 2018, Dan, in an amazing election, was elected to represent the people of Texas' 2nd Congressional District. In Congress, he was appointed to Homeland Security Committee and the Budget Committee. He was also named ranking member of the Oversight, Management, and Accountability Subcommittee of the Homeland Security Committee. Through his work on these committees, he's focused on border security, disaster relief, funding port security, cutting frivolous spending, and implementing fiscally responsible policies. Let me just, now that I've read that part, for those of you who do know me, you know that I have been heavily involved in Republican politics at the highest levels for many years. And I just want to ask each one of you to pay very close attention. I have worked with so many folks that have gone on to Washington, some of whom have gone on to serve in the White House. Let me just tell you, in all the years that I've been privileged to do this, I have never met any rookie who has ever experienced the meteoric rise that Dan Crenshaw has. His respect for this country, his respect among his fellow congressmen is absolutely unprecedented in the short term that he's been there. So I want each of you to pay particular attention to a man that I think probably has the greatest future in the Republican Party in the United States, a man who I have just admired and been such a privilege to work with and work for, Congressman Dan Crenshaw.
Congressman, thank you for doing this. I must tell you, I first became aware of you, as I think many Americans did, when Pete Davidson of Saturday Night Live made that joke about you And I have to tell you, I'm such a fan of what you said, because you never hear that in American life. You said, look, it was wrong, but let's just forgive each other. I know you've done much better things for this country. 5 tours you did overseas. But thank you for your service in calling out victim culture.
Well, I appreciate that, Bill. And first of all, thanks for having me. I know we had planned to do this in the studio in Los Angeles. Unfortunately, life took a different turn. You know, the phrase I used after Pete Davidson said that, which I think you would love this phrase, is try hard not to be offended, or try hard not to offend, but try even harder not to offend, or be offended, because I'm really screwing this up. Try hard not to offend, try even harder not to be offended. And I think that'd be a way to live for all of us.
No, and we both share this disdain for victim culture and for lots of stuff, trophy syndrome. I hope I have some credibility with you because, you know, I did a show called Politically Incorrect, which started in 1993 when I think you were about 10. And I was and it hasn't gotten any better.
I think you do have some credibility for sure. In conservative circles, I don't know how often you test or do focus groups amongst conservatives, but we generally think of you as a real liberal, and you know, and that means something. And there's a difference between liberalism and leftism, and we can disagree wholeheartedly on the best way to govern our country, or the best way to perceive a problem, the framework with which to approach problem solving. But open-mindedness and the ability to debate should be a key tenet of liberalism, and at least in the classical sense. And so we do appreciate it.
That interview gets a lot more spicy. Yeah, I was in like, you know, warming me up, being nice, and then he's like, so, why are you horrible? That's Bill Lawrence, what do you expect? It was fun though. And so, I didn't know we knew you were going to play, I didn't know which parts. Appreciate you guys having me here, and looks like we're attempting to get back to some semblance of normalcy. And I think we are. I think we're all learning to live with the risks that we now have out there, and meet and take those personal precautions and get our lives back on track, which is extremely important for our businesses, for our community, for our bars and restaurants that are really hurting right now, for our small businesses. You know, living with this virus is what we have to do. We have to toughen up and actually get it done. And I see a lot of Texans doing that, and I'm proud of that fact. We can always do better though. So again, great to be with you guys and be able to update you on a variety of legislative issues. And we'll take questions of whatever you want to talk about. I mean, this is going to be a little dry, I think. I don't know, maybe it won't be, but what's your definition of dry? But then we'll take questions on whatever you guys want. You know, I'm pretty open to that. So what we got into in that interview actually was the next question was, okay, why was there no national plan for coronavirus? Why did Trump kill people? That was basically the next question. We get into this debate about what actually happened. And that debate is raging today. There's a mantra that I see in media circles that there's no national plan. We're supposed to do it all together and all do the exact same thing. That's of course nonsense, especially when you have a country full of 350 million people in 50 different states, rural areas, urban areas. It doesn't make any sense. I think any reasonable person would suggest that. But that's what's being told. And I don't mean whether you like Trump or not. Let's at least just talk about what the truth is about what the federal response is. And people should know that. You should have the truth in your back pocket when we're talking about how our country has reacted to coronavirus. The bottom line, the summary that I would give you is, I think just about everybody has done the best that they possibly can with a novel new virus. There's this sort of utopian thinking that there was a perfect way to deal with this. In New Zealand, they're an island with like 5 people, so not a good comparison. Sweden's actually a pretty good example of maybe how we should have done it. But this is what the national plan did look like, and I think should have looked like, and I think if we were going to do it all over again, it would probably not look much different than this.
March 16th, we had 15 days to slow the spread. 15 days later, we had 30 days to slow the spread. And of course, you all know that we had 6 months to slow the spread. So, but the CDC long came out with guidelines to reopen America. This myth that they threw away the old handbook from the last administration is just that. It is a myth. It is a blatant lie. There's not even a need to debunk it. It's just a lie. But it's being told to you every single day. And I want you to know that it's just not true. What they're doing is they're twisting one nugget of truth, which is that they had somebody at the National Security Council who looked at pandemics, and they simply moved them to HHS or CDC. That's all they did. National Security Council has no actual authority over any agencies. It's an advisory group to the president. The president always changes up the staffing there as they see fit. It doesn't change our plan, our game plan in any way. COVID-19 strategic testing plan. This is headed up by HHS. It's headed up by Admiral Girard. Well, one thing I always noticed in headlines was, God, don't we need somebody who's like a military leader who just knows how to get things done and do it? Well, we have the entire time. We have an Admiral Girard who's in charge of HHS, who's in charge of the testing. It's basically the testing czar. It's how we've been able to test at a capacity far greater than any other country in the world on a per capita basis, not just on an absolute basis. CDC has issued guidelines on how to reopen the schools. There's this mantra out there that we have no plan. It's just not true. There's actually very specific guidelines on how to reopen schools safely. And I'm happy to take your questions on the merits of the school reopening too at some point. And if there's no national plan, then what's Operation Airbridge, which had over 250 flights internationally, this is back in March when we didn't have the PPE production we have now, flying in PPE to our hospitals and our doctors, and then FEMA did have this entire time, they've been managing who needed that the most. New York needed it, they'd be getting PPE there, they got ventilators there, they got testing capacity there. As Texas needed, they've been doing the same thing here. That is a national plan. Just because we don't force everyone to wear a mask doesn't mean there's no national plan. People who say there's no national plan ignore Operation Warp Speed as well. Oh wait, let me give you these numbers on the PPE production. At the beginning of this month, 200 million N95 respirators were distributed, 855 million surgical masks, 36 million face shields, 364 million surgical gowns, 21 million gloves. FEMA, since August 4th, FEMA's delivered 30,000 medical supplies to nursing homes in 52 states and territories. Operation Warp Speed is the race for the vaccine. You're probably more familiar with that. You know, one thing you need to know about our healthcare system, right? One other thing you saw at the beginning of this pandemic was this cry out for, this is why we need Medicare for all. It's actually the opposite is true. This is why we shouldn't have Medicare for all. Here's the thing. If you look at the numbers on how we've dealt with COVID, one, our fatality rate, so number of deaths per infection, or per number of people infected, one of the lowest in the world. If you take New York out of the mix and just leave the other 49 states, it's almost the lowest in the world. Texas specifically has one of the lowest in the world. So we have the best hospitals in the world. Okay, it doesn't mean there's no problems with healthcare. Not what I'm saying. It's too damn expensive and complicated. We're to fix that. We can answer those questions later too. I've got some great ideas for that I'd love to talk to you about. But we have the best quality in the world, period. It's not even close. We also have the most ICU bed space capacity. We pay more, but we get a lot more. We have more things. On a per capita basis, we have way more ventilators than any other Western country. I'm only comparing us, by the way, to places like France, Germany, Italy, UK, Canada. That's the comparisons I only use. I'm not going to compare us to Central America. The fact is that when you have the socialized medicine, well, what does that really mean? You guys are in business. You understand what it means to have price controls. If the government puts a price control on the product you want to sell, what's your business decision going to be? You're going to make less of it, or you just shut down. And that's the decision that hospitals have to face, and that's the decision that a lot of independent providers would have to face. Okay, if you're going to cut my income to this much, now I have to make a difficult decision whether I should shut down or not. That's the reality that nobody tells you about when they talk about Medicare for All. Medicare for All fundamentally is a system of price controls set by the government. They replace your insurer, or who you probably don't like either, with a government bureaucrat who you most certainly will not like either. So we had a lot, and here's the other thing about that gets left out of the equation. We're the only country in the world that innovates in the healthcare space. Texas, I mean, and Houston is like it's the number one in the world. I don't think it's even close. It's the number one in the world because we have the private sector that basically houses, you go to the Johnson & Johnson Innovation Center or the TMCX, it's amazing stuff that they do in there. They basically take startups and they allow them to come and get housed in there with laboratory space and computer space, whatever they need to start up their new technology that they want to bring forth into the healthcare space. It's very cool stuff. And so we have well over 300 companies working on treatments and vaccines and cures for coronavirus. And whose second place is? China. They have like 30, maybe 30 companies. And really those companies, their whole job is to steal from us. That's their entire thing. That's all they're good for. Remember we closed down that consulate? It's in my district, by the way. We closed down that consulate. What were they doing? Why was that consulate so close to the TMC? So they could steal our stuff. That's what they do. Remember we had arrested 2 Chinese nationals. I think it was at Baylor within the last year. The Chinese are not good actors in all of this. And we are the only ones who innovate. Everybody else in the world, and it's frustrating, I get it, that they get cheaper drugs than we do. There's a complicated reasoning for that. But they don't get all the drugs. In fact, they don't get access to even close to the new drugs, the cutting edge stuff that we develop here in America. Do we pay too much? Yes. Do we need to fix that? Yes. Do we have legislation to do that? That is in price controls? Yes. There is. It's bipartisan. We could be passing that kind of stuff instead of H.R. 3, which was what did get passed out of the House, which is price controls. What do price controls do? CBO says you'll have about 30 less new cures over the next 10 years. If you had all the drugs you ever needed, all the cures you ever needed in healthcare, you could make a somewhat of a moral argument to say, hey, now we're just going to take them, produce them, and just hand them out. You could make that argument, but the thing is, we don't have everything we want. We need incentives to innovate. We need incentives for research and development. It's not a perfect system, but the people who tell you that there can be this perfect system of having your cake and eating it too, they're not telling you the truth. There's no honesty in the Medicare for All debate, unfortunately. They don't tell you all those second, third order consequences. I'm kind of going through a speech here that I'm not reading. But I am hitting all the points because I like to just talk to you guys. I kind of know this stuff pretty well, so that's just going through it. Let me tell you a little bit about the legislation that I'm talking about. It's called the Lower Cost, More Cures Act. This is a bipartisan piece of legislation. We could have passed this in the House. Republicans would vote for it. It would go to the Senate and get signed into law. These things could happen, just not under current leadership in the House. It makes it impossible. So this one lowers your costs at the pharmacy counter and protects medical innovation at the same time. For seniors specifically, it includes the first ever out-of-pocket cap for seniors on the Medicare Part D program. And it also closes a lot of the loopholes that drug companies use basically to prevent generic drugs from getting on the market. That's a frustrating part of what Big Pharma does. They'll redo an old drug in like a very small way so they can get another patent on it. That's the kind of stuff that we need to tackle. Because once your patent's up, we should allow the generic space to open up. All right, generic drugs are the cheap ones. It just means it's like, when you go to Walgreens and it's like you got NyQuil, then you got like Walgreens NyQuil, you know what I mean? Same thing for this big stuff. There's a way to do this. So let's get to some other pieces of legislation. You know about the CARES Act, probably the most massive spending bill in U.S. history, almost $2 trillion. Included a lot of funding for our healthcare system, an aggressive effort to find a cure and a vaccine. And again, you've probably watched the news, there's a lot of really, really promising news on the vaccines and treatments and cures from Houston doctors that I talked to. If you guys listen to my podcast, we had recently Reynolds Delgado, a friend of mine, local doctor at St. Luke's. He's talking about this, what is basically a cure/treatment, but an inhalant. It's very cheap to make. If they can get this FDA approved, probably able to manufacture it even faster than a vaccine. kills the virus, and something you would take daily to basically kill the virus while simultaneously not spreading it either. You know, incredible stuff that's being worked on because of our ability to innovate here in Texas and here in the United States. It had the Paycheck Protection Program. You guys remember that. We're working on, hopefully, getting another one passed. I just called on the speaker today and I also called on all Americans to call the speaker's office. I gave everybody her number. Yeah, on Twitter. Because it would be, so they want us to come back and vote on the post office stuff. Like, okay, I mean, we're willing to have a conversation. If the post office truly needs to be bailed out, we don't want it to fail. We need to see what the Democrats are actually proposing. It's a bit unclear to me right now. They almost always propose about 20 times too much, just to make us say no and just to call us bad guys. You want to know how the game works? That's how the game works between Democrats and Republicans. And I know some people probably go Democratic here. I don't mean to be partisan, but I'm very honest with you and I'm extremely candid. You guys notice that? Okay. I really just say it how it is. That's the reality. You know what else we could do on Saturday? There's bipartisan legislation like the Restart Act, which is kind of a PPP light. Basically, it's PPP for businesses that can show that they've lost revenue in a serious way. So it's more targeted. Okay, no more businesses getting PPP that really didn't need it. Okay, the first tranche of that was not targeted because it had to get out fast. You know, there was reasons for that. We had to save the economy to the greatest extent possible. Understandable. Not the amount of restrictions that a lot of us would like. This one would be much more targeted and really help these, especially bars and restaurants that still can't even open right now. They're really hurting. We could just pass that on Saturday. It's bipartisan. Everybody would vote for it. It is up to one person to put that on the House floor, Nancy Pelosi. She has the power to just put her post office thing there and then just add another vote. We could easily vote on this stuff. We could easily vote on discrete solutions for discrete problems. But they won't, right? There's this myth that gets perpetuated that every single time we do something to help the coronavirus pandemic problem, that it has to be some multi-trillion-dollar deal. That's ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. There's this myth perpetuated that we can only show up every few weeks, and not even everybody, right? Like at least 80 members of Congress stay at home and vote from their boat. We've literally seen this. We've seen this in a committee hearing where I can't remember his name. I wish I could. Voted for him. He's like on his boat. Oh, I'm having a great time. I'm not going to go to work today, but hey, good luck, America. Should that guy get paid? I don't think so. Anyway, we don't need to walk in every few weeks and vote on multi-trillion-dollar bills. If there's stuff we agree on, we could just vote on it. You should demand that from your representatives. This is why I gave you all Nancy Pelosi's number. Unfortunately, she's the one with the power to make that happen. She's the one with the power. But nobody's calling on her to do it except for us, the Republicans. One great thing we passed is the Paycheck Protection, the PPP Flexibility Act. This was basically designed by Chip Roy, congressman, in the San Antonio, Austin area. And he didn't really get credit for it. The Democrats took it, put their name on it, and passed it. Who cares though? Like it got passed and it was good. This is what gave businesses the flexibility. You're probably aware of this if you used it. Just change the length of the loans and a few other things. Change the percentages of what you have to use it for wages, what you have to use for basic other capital expenses. So that was a great one that we did too. Talk about all that. What's in the Senate HEALS Act on the Republican side? So there's now this sort of war going on between the HEROES Act, which is the Democrats' bill from the House, which is $3 trillion, and the HEALS Act, not like Achilles heel, like you're being healed. Okay, I don't know why we always do acronyms with bills in Congress. It's weird. I find it silly, but that's what we do. So that's the HEALS Act. It's about $1 trillion. So I mean, this is the state of 2020. We're debating between $1 trillion spending bill on top of the $2 trillion we already spent, or a $3 trillion spending bill. That's the crazy times we're in. But basically, it focuses on 4 main things. Again, funding the cures and the treatments and making sure that that continues to be funded, testing as well, economic assistance in the form of something like the Restart Act that I described earlier, liability protection, which is extremely important to your businesses. We don't want you getting sued by a bunch of opportunistic trial lawyers because somebody in your office gets sick. That would not be fair to you or your business. And schools, making sure that if schools are going to reopen with in-person learning, that they have the funding to do so. All right, it's pretty simple. What it doesn't do, and one of the big point of disagreement between these 2 major bills is the Democrats bill out almost $1 trillion to just give money to states that are in dire straits mostly because they didn't plan financially. So no member from Texas should be voting for that because Texas is not in that kind of financial dire straits. Places like New York and California. I don't want our Texas federal tax dollars going to bail out states that have pension plans that are so unbelievably rotten and corrupt. It would drive you crazy. If you go to Illinois or New York or California, you see what government workers make after they retire, it would drive you insane. Well, you don't live there, so I guess it wouldn't drive you that insane because your taxes aren't going to it necessarily. But you know, this is bad planning because their governments got captured by these public unions a long time ago. But I don't think that's what our money should be going to if I'm representing Texans. So these are some of the big differences. I wish I could give you a better update on where we see that negotiation going. I don't have an update on that. It looks intransient at the moment. Which is why I think we're making a big push to call for Pelosi to just put that PPP bill, that Restart Act, on the floor this Saturday. It would be a huge deal to so many small businesses. And I see no good reason why we couldn't do it, except politically, they lose a piece of leverage there. And that's all that matters in an election year. That's disgusting, and it's sad. So, let's talk about the post office. There's a bit of, there's a lot of stories about the post office, so let's talk about what's true and what isn't. This is basically a conspiracy theory. The entire thing. Somehow that the United States Postal Service is being sabotaged before the election to prevent mail-in voting from being successful. That's the story that's being told. Nobody wants the post office to fail. That's a kind of a crazy charge made against us. We can get to the merits of vote by mail versus absentee ballots if you'd like. I think that would be an important conversation to have, and we'll do it after I talk about this. So what they're voting on, or what we're going to vote on this Saturday, $25 billion to save it. That's probably, I don't know the number on it, but probably about 10 times what their annual budget is. I mean, really, they say it's based on the need to modernize their fleet and deal with liquidity issues. So we're not sure what that means just yet. So it's abundantly clear they've kind of invented a new reason to request this funding. And they're claiming that this funding will somehow assist with the delivery of absentee ballots. But I mean, intuitively, that doesn't make any sense. Just adding money to an organization will not all of a sudden make its operations work so smoothly and perfectly that you could deliver the massive amounts of new ballots that we might expect in November. So that's nonsense. That can't possibly happen within the span of a couple months. So officials at the Postal Service did in fact sound the alarm bell. They're worried about ensuring services aren't disrupted in the fall. But they're also concerned with the actions of the states, some of which have altered deadlines in a manner that's pretty inconsistent with delivery standards. So states need to step up to the plate too and address the concerns that the post office itself has brought to their attention. States can make deadlines for casting mail-in ballots sooner, for instance, to make sure they all get counted by election day. So additional funding won't change that fact. You could add more money to the system. Doesn't change the fact that the mail moves a certain way and is sorted a certain way by a certain number of people. You can't change those basic logistical facts all of a sudden with a lot more money. That's why this Saturday is going to be a little bit more contentious than it needs to be. In the Senate, Republicans are offering a compromise. That would grant some funds to the Postal Service. I think that would probably make a lot of sense. This doesn't need to be a partisan fight. Again, it's always a matter of funding. There's this weird sort of rule in Washington that I explained it before, where my colleagues like to attach the size of their heart and their morality to a dollar sign. And they say, you don't care if you're not willing to spend 10 times the amount of money that you want to spend. You don't care. You don't have empathy. These words are used very often. I'm choosing their words. That's a really dishonest way to argue, frankly. If you're trusting people to act like adults and manage the greatest country on earth, you need to have reasonable conversations. You have to have limiting principles. You have to have honest conversations about what's needed and what is too much, and what will put our kids in unsustainable amounts of debt, which they're already in. You have to talk about the sustainability of a given program. You can't just say, well, we care this much, therefore you have to do it. You have to spend all of the money. I call it the puppy problem when I want to explain this to people, because everybody's in favor of puppies. And if you're not, anybody? Yeah, who are you? So you got like a puppy program that you want to spend $10 million on because it's puppies. But then the next year, somebody else wants to get elected. Maybe they want to take your seat. Crenshaw, he only wants to spend $10 million on the puppies. I want to double it because I actually care about the puppies. $20 million. This is politics. It's politics. You can't fall for it. And I think too often we do. We get bought off. Just people talk about buying votes, corporations buying votes, or whatever. Nobody has ever gone to your house and paid you for your vote. You know who does? Politicians. I'll give you this if you vote for me. It's literally buying your vote. Happens all the time. We need to be more awake to it. Woke to it. Don't be like Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, you want Q&A? How much time we got left? 10 minutes for Q&A or so. Let's do it, yeah, let's go to questions. We could probably talk forever. I think that's basically everything. Yeah, okay. Yes, ma'am.
Questions. There's cards at the table. We have the president will read them, and the president. Okay, so there's cards at your tables. There's write your questions. Hold it up. Billy will pick them up. They'll run them up in front.
All right, I'll take that. I can take it. This was about the globalism. Okay, like how do you fight globalism? First of all, you got to define globalism. What does it mean? Everybody has a different definition. I think people think of globalism as this idea that the UN should be in charge. So the Europeans kind of fell into this trap with the EU. And they're kind of regretting that, if you haven't noticed. It doesn't work very well. Multiculturalist societies don't work well. They're very difficult. When people speak different languages, they have different nationalities, different loyalties to that nationality. It just doesn't work well. It might be allies, it might be friends, but it's very difficult to govern together. Even Canada has always had this problem because they have a French-speaking province. This is a basic fact and truth within human nature. It cannot be changed. A lot of people would like to change it. A lot of people believe in sort of an unconstrained vision of how to govern humanity. And that belief relies on the fact that human nature can be changed and that you can form it with your government policies. I do not believe that. I think that is wrong. And by the way, I think most biologists, evolutionary theorists would also agree with me. It's very much wrong. Human nature is mostly set. The institutions we build must create left and right parameters for human nature, protect rights, inalienable rights, make sure we don't infringe on each other's rights, but for the most part live as free as possible. It's a very basic understanding of Western civilization. Globalists have a bit of a more utopian view of that, and there's been a backlash to that. And I think rightfully so. The unfortunate thing about something like the UN, it does a lot of good things, and I don't want to ban the UN by any means. But it has some institutions within it that are very, very corrupted, like the Human Rights Council, which is often chaired by some of the worst human rights abusers in the world. That should frustrate us. That removes credibility from something like the UN. And we just have to call that out. I think this to answer your question.
Next question is, are the borders closed? And if not, when?
The border closed. Closed. That's okay. The border situation has gotten massively better. And nobody hears about this anymore. For a couple of reasons. One, agreements with Mexico and agreements with the Northern Triangle countries, Honduras, El Salvador, Guatemala. So, because they don't want an exodus of people leaving their country either. So there's a common understanding that we want to get a hold on this. Enforcing our amnesty laws much better, and stopping the catch and release system. Okay, so basically just enforcing our laws. Our current Department of Homeland Security is doing an excellent job doing that, and I think they should be applauded for it. It's also been largely stopped because of extra authorities given to it during the COVID crisis. But even beyond the COVID authorities, the policies in place and the agreements with Mexico have stopped that crisis to an exceptional degree.
Okay, we had a question. Will there be another airline bailout?
I don't know. It's not. I've not heard that to be on the table. But I will update you if I do. It is not in any of these bills that we're discussing.
And is there any protection now for homeowners against the foreclosure or eviction in any current bills?
This is a difficult problem. My take on how it's not specifically set out. It's a difficult problem because, okay, so let's say you protect somebody from eviction. All right, well that just transfers the problem from one person to another person, the landlord. Okay, let's say you stop mortgage payments. Well, that just transfers the problem from one person to another, to the bank. And then you have a 2008 financial crisis. So how did the 2008 financial crisis happen? People just stopped paying their mortgages. That's what happened. And it just flooded because people got mortgages that they really shouldn't have gotten in the first place, shouldn't have been approved for, etc. That's probably not a good solution either. So then you just got to bail out the banks after that. So a better strategy is to get to target the people that actually need help with their rent. Rent assistance programs are the right way to go on this. I know, so federal money that goes down to the local level. I mean, Houston's been giving out rental assistance, for instance. That's the right way to do it. That's the best way to actually solve the problem. That's why unemployment benefits were increased so drastically to $600 a week, so that you could actually have that extra payments. And the direct cash payments are also part of that. I disagree with those, to be honest, because I think if you had a job this entire time, why on earth do you need a direct cash payment? I think that's crazy. It's a waste of our taxpayer money. It should be targeted. I kind of get it at first, although it was silly at first too, because what are you going to spend the money on? All the businesses that are closed? There's no stimulus happening. It was bad policy, but we did it. So we should be more targeted. Now that we have more time to actually stop and think about what we should be doing, you need to target this stuff. And unemployment benefits, I'm happy to match that almost to 100%, but you can't go over 100%. I have a feeling a lot of you who work different places probably had trouble getting employees to come back prior to August 1st. I had a bill that would have fixed that 2 months ago and actually let them keep the bonus every week, but still go back to work. Simple solution. Right. You can't get Pelosi to put it on the floor.
We have a number of questions on two subjects. One is the issue with mail-in ballots and what's really the other issue has to do with Antifa, the city rioting, and what's the ultimate outcome there.
Okay.
We have about 4 minutes and then we're going to break.
Okay. Okay. Big difference between this idea of universal mail-in ballots and absentee ballots. In Texas, we obviously do some form of mail-in ballots if you're a senior or disabled. Like you can apply. That's the key. You apply. You verify your identity. You apply to receive your absentee ballot or your mail-in ballot, and then you mail it back in. That's a very structured system. Works okay. It's not risk-free because anytime you let loose your ballot into the system, you don't know what's happening necessarily. But it's secure, mostly, free of fraud. Difficult to be fraudulent with that system. Mail-in ballot, universal mail-in ballot, the way the Democrats are talking about, is vastly different. That just means, okay, the state of Texas takes its registration rolls You know, however many millions of people are on them. You've got addresses for them, and just mail a ballot everywhere. See what happens. See who gives it back. You can imagine how fraught with error that can be. I'm sure not everybody who moves in Houston immediately re-registers to vote in the right place. So what happens very, very often, and especially you know this if you've ever block-walked, because you block-walk with voter registration rolls. And you go and you're like, well, that person doesn't live. How often does that happen? All the time. They don't live here. Oh, those aren't not even U.S. citizens. So this is a P.O. box. This is an empty lot. And yet mail-in ballots are going here, and then anybody can send those right back. How are they going to check? How would you know? And even if it is you, if you screw up your signature slightly, like that's the system that they use in some states. And I think like 400,000 were thrown out in the 2016 election. This didn't count. This is not a good system. It's very strange to me that the Democrats are really intent on this system. I find it very suspicious, to be perfectly honest with you. Because I think if we all got together and there was no Democrats and no Republicans and we were like, okay guys, we have to have a voting system where we just make sure that everybody's vote counts and that we know that like nobody's screwing it up, right? That it's secure and reliable and verifiable. I think we would all come to the conclusion that you have to have some kind of identification and that you should probably do it in person to the best of your ability. Yeah. Just like we do in Texas, to the best of your ability. It's very easy to vote. This nonsense about, oh, we're trying to suppress the vote. We've got like 3 weeks now, 3 weeks of early voting from like 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., wherever you want. It's the easiest thing in the world. So I find it very suspicious that they're so intent on this very bad system. Okay, on Antifa. Antifa's a terrorist organization. I don't know what I'm supposed to say about it. They commit a bunch of violence all the time, and they're trying to hold America hostage. They're basically saying, if you don't give us power, we won't give you peace. Now what they really say is no justice, no peace. Interesting play on words. This is what I'll end with. This is kind of my philosophical observation for you if we're out of time. No justice, no peace. Yeah, that's not. I almost agree with that. If I felt a true injustice against me, yeah, I might not want to be peaceful about it. It's kind of what the American Revolution was all about. The thing is, when you start to redefine the word justice, the justice has a meaning. It basically means don't let person A infringe on the life, liberty, or property of person B. That would be an injustice. Or don't infringe on somebody's due process. That would be an injustice. Don't let somebody rise up for reasons other than merit. That would feel like an injustice, right? Somebody else got the job and you felt like it was because they were friends with the boss's grandson, or I don't know. That feels like an injustice, and I think that rightfully feels like an injustice. There are things that we can logically define as an injustice. I think the people out there committing violence, saying no justice, no peace, have redefined the word justice. They don't mean justice in the classical sense. They mean power. They mean redistributive power, and they mean retributional power. They mean this group getting power over this group because we are claiming that this group has oppressed this other group. This is identity politics. That's a dangerous thing. It's very divisive. And it also removes individuality from the individual. It places you as part of a group that is on a hierarchy. And if you're on a given place in that hierarchy, you can demand things from this other group. That's what they mean by justice. They attach it to a bunch of slogans: economic justice, environmental justice, gender justice, justice for everything. So when they say no justice, no peace, they're saying, if you don't give us power, we won't give you peace. It's a hostage crisis. And we have to have our eyes open to it. That's what I would implore of you. We do one more? How many we got? Okay. All right. Sorry to end on such a cheery philosophical note. But, okay, let me end with this then. Look, I have a lot of faith in this country. You know, not everybody's in the stock market. That doesn't affect everybody. But it is an indicator of how we feel about the direction of our economy and where things are going. And it's at all-time highs. And I think what that tells us is that despite all the grumblings and divisiveness in this country, This is still the greatest country on earth. It's still founded on the greatest ideas that humankind has ever had. That has not changed. And as long as we're given the freedom to do so, we will always rise above any challenge. But we have to tell ourselves that we can. And this crisis of confidence that I believe we have in Western civilization in America, it's got to stop. And I think we can stop it, each one of us, because each one of us makes up the thread of the cultural fabric that we all live in as Americans. So do that, live with fortitude, and let's rise up and make this the greatest country on earth because it is.
Okay, we have a brief presentation to make to Representative Crenshaw. I think did just an incredible job, and I'd like to give another round of applause if we could. And then immediately afterwards, we'll have about 10 minutes for pictures. The way this is going to work, please try to maintain some social distance. Wear your mask until you're up here, but we're going to form a line here. We're going to have Representative Crenshaw in this corner. You'll come up, get your picture taken beside the flag, and then proceed off so that we can get as many in as possible. And Jay, where's Jay? Why don't you come up first, Jay, since you have a gift for him as well. We want to make, Billy, you want to make a presentation to him?
Congressman Crenshaw, thank you for coming back. We look forward to this every time. We really are honored every time you come. So, on behalf of the Downtown Rotary Club of Houston, we would like to present you with your own personalized Downtown Rotary Club of Houston vest, and we invite you to wear that proudly. So, thank you very much.
We can get the line formed over here. This meeting